In this lesson, we are going to introduce vectors, but algebraically defining them, not kind of geometrically defining them. So which means we're going to be putting it onto a grid, and since we're putting it onto a grid, then we're going to be talking about angles and distances, and but we're going to be able to use trig, basically stuff that nothing in here is going to be new. We're just kind of defining it as something a little bit different. So first off, to name vector u, it is going to look like this. You're going to have kind of less than, greater than symbols, but those symbols represent that you're talking about a vector. And when you do this, everything is always going to be from the origin. So anytime that you see a vector, you're going to assume that it's from the origin. And basically that a and b are kind of like a coordinate, because you're just talking about a horizontal distance out, which is A, and then a vertical distance up, which is B. So you can really think of this as a coordinate, but it's always going to be that coordinate from the origin. Okay, so our vectors always have magnitude and direction. And so to find the magnitude of u gets written like this. So the magnitude has a symbol for it, and it looks like that. So that represents the magnitude, and the magnitude is actually the length, which there's a formula for it, but it's definitely not new. It's kind of like the distance formula, or it's really Pythagorean theorem. So to find u, you'll know those two values, Pythagorean theorem, and you can get yourself u, which is what that turns out to be. And then you also have a direction. So the direction on this is theta, and to find theta given a and b, you would just use tangent. So again, it's not something that you have to memorize. It's just, if you draw yourself a picture, you're going to use nothing new in anything that you do within this stuff. But just magnitude represents the length, or the length basically represents the magnitude of your vector, and then we can find the angle in there, which is your direction. All right, so let's do an example for that. So let's find the magnitude and direction. And we're going to be given this vector, 3, -2. So very first thing I'm absolutely going to do is draw a picture. I don't need to memorize these things at all. I'm just going to draw a picture and just use the trig that I already know how to do. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, plot our point, and that is the vector that we're talking about. All right, so we're looking for what is the magnitude and what is the direction. So we'll label some of our pieces. This is 3. If we make a right triangle out of that, that's -2. So if we are looking to do the magnitude of u, then I'm just going to be doing Pythagorean theorem, and u is what we're looking for. All right, so Pythagorean theorem is 3 squared plus -2 squared, but then this would have had a square on it, so we'll square root both sides, which is also the formula. And so then we're getting a 9 plus 4 is going to get us a 13, and that is the magnitude. So that's the length, which represents the magnitude in vectors. And then if we were looking to find this angle, I'm going to call this angle x for a second, because what we find is going to be this angle, but our actual direction is going to be going all the way around here. So we're going to have to find that to find that. Okay, so to find this angle, I know these two. I'm going to not use the value that I just found, just in case I got it wrong. So I'm going to use these two given values. So to find x, we're going to be setting it up as tangent of x is going to be -2/3. And then x is going to be the inverse tangent of that. And we get a value of about -33.7 degrees. So -33 just means the quadrant that we're at, because if you're doing an inverse, you're only going to get answers out of these two quadrants. And so negative is in that direction. That's the only reason that the negative is sitting there. So reference angle wise, we're looking at a 33.7 degree angle. So to actually find our direction, which we'll call theta, it's going to be 360 minus the 33.7. So our direction is going to be about 326.3 degrees. So great thing about vectors is if you're in a trig class and you've been working through this, and vectors are usually later on in the semester, nothing new is happening here. You're just plotting your point, doing stuff that you already know how to do. All right, so that was one problem and beginning of defining vectors algebraically.